Okay, you clicked this. You know what Dead by Daylight is. I've got 100 Mary's letters and I'm a Pyramid Head main. Let's go! I really like Dead by Daylight. I've played it once or twice and ended up being a Pyramid Head main because I like cake and freaky horror stuff. But over the hundreds of hours that I've played the game, I just never really felt like I spent enough time on my home turf, Midwich Elementary. That is the Silent Hill map where Pyramid Head comes from. It is an indoor map, currently the smallest map in the game, has 2 floors and the exit gates are directly across from each other with nothing but an open courtyard in between. This is hard mode for survivors and it really suits Pyramid Head's skill set. So, why am I doing this? 100 Mary's letters is nothing to sneeze at. This took months to set up. Well, like most live service games, Dead by Daylight changes over time. Some of the changes are good, some of the changes are bad, but one thing that has never changed is my boy Pyramid Head. Since his release, he has gotten one camping proximity nerf on his Cages of Atonement, and nothing else. No more skins, no tome challenges, no costumes in any of the game's current holiday events, nothing. He's basically sitting on the shelf gathering dust. Now, I know the reason for this is that Konami is a bitch to work with, and much like other Japanese gaming companies, they're very stingy on what they would allow or don't allow when it comes to their characters. Just ask the Yu-Gi-Oh crowd. But Pyramid Head is basically locked in place as is, since his release in June of 2020. He is a fun killer to pick up and play with a high skill ceiling, and can be absolutely devastating in the hands of a master, much less in a small indoor map like Midwich. Now, I'm a casual, middle-of-the-pack sort of player when it comes to this game, and I've never gotten any higher than Silver 1 in the rankings. I simply don't play the game enough to ever get to the coveted Iridescent 1, the top rank of the game. But, as I said, Dead by Daylight is changing with time. It's no longer possible to go down in rank if you get stomped by bully squad after bully squad. Once you attain a rank level, you can't go down again until the monthly reset. This, of course, invalidates the entire ranking system, making it a completely moot point, but now's my chance. Oh, don't get me wrong, I still have a hill to climb if I want to get up there in just 30 days with only 100 games to do so. It's just not as steep of a hill as it used to be. But again, casual player, I'm gonna give it my all. Let's start with the build. I play Pyramid Head as a stealth killer. Since he can attack through walls, being undetectable is great. I use Trail of Torment, Unforeseen, Dark Devotion, and Mindbreaker. And if I see flashlights in the lobby, Lightborn, because fuck your flashlights, I don't have a face. No face there, see? Add-ons include the Obsidian Goblet, which makes me undetectable while standing on one of my goop trails, and the Rust-Colored Egg, which causes blindness if a survivor steps on one of my trails. More on those later. So, the stage is set, the pieces are moving, we're gonna start at the bottom and see how high a casual Dead by Daylight player can climb when all of the circumstances are carefully aligned in his favor. Let's step into the fog. The Ash League at the start of the new rank month is filled with 2 kinds of players. Brand new munchkins that are still learning the game, trying out new builds, or killers trying out the survivor side of things, and the 10,000 hour Twitch streamers that are cruising their way up the ranks as quickly as possible. I only had 100 games to prove my mettle, so I crossed my talons hoping I would only run into the former and not waste any Mary's letters getting schooled at the very bottom of the ladder. These were basically my gimme victories, where I could familiarize myself with both the map and the build I was using. I spent time trying to identify personal weaknesses or other overlooked cavities and alcoves in the map itself. I ended up trying out a few other stealth perks like Tinkerer, just to see if the overlap between undetectable perks would be a bit better. All in all, I had a pool of maybe 6 or 8 perks total, all with the same goal in mind: keep me stealthy for the vast majority of the game. That way, if survivors didn't have eyes on me, they would have no idea where I was at any given point. And on a small indoor map like Midwich, that is a serious fear for them to have. Sorry, baby survivors, I'm gonna have to destroy you. Getting out of the Ash League as quickly as possible would make sure I wasn't using up too many Mary's letters early, and would have more for later when I was clawing my way into the higher ranks 1 pip at a time. Luck, it seemed, was on my side, because aside from one group of survivors that absolutely dunked on me, I had no problems at all getting 4K after 4K with the survivors that I was served up. It took a mere 10 games to get out of the Ash League altogether. I was seriously happy with that. But that was a nice warm-up, and now it's time to get a little more serious. The Bronze League. The Bronze League wasn't actually too different from the Ash League, as it was filled with low-level survivors that either didn't know the map well or simply were not skilled enough to escape my wall-piercing attacks. Given that there are 30 or 40 maps in Dead by Daylight and only one of them is the Silent Hill map, it was easy to tell who had map knowledge and who didn't while they were running away from me. I did, however, get to see the Easter egg room opened a number of times, which was cool. Something about completing 2 generators in 2 specific spots on the map if they happen to spawn there. The room will open once the endgame collapse has begun. It's pretty cool. It's mostly achieved by complete chance nowadays, but playing 100 games on this map, I was bound to see it at least once or twice. Love it. I was also starting to see survivors that were obviously on comms together, whether that be Discord or Twitch or whatever, as 1 or 2 groups were acting as diversions for each other and working as a team over long distances. Say what you want about how the game is intended to be played, but it does make a group much more difficult to kill if everybody has a headset on, except for me. Either way, they were no match for me whatsoever, and a mere 12 games saw me through the Bronze League. Another chunk of my Mary's letters were gone, and I still had a long way to go to reach the top. The Silver League. With blood on my great knife, it was time to turn up the juice. Donning the bloody pyramid head skin to show that I was a veteran and shouldn't be toyed with, I stepped foot into the Silver League. Now, as I said before, Silver 1 is as high as I have ever gone before in the couple of years that I've been casually playing Dead by Daylight, but Silver in general is basically my quote-unquote neighborhood where survivors of my skill level or higher hang out. It was time to get serious and start pulling out my nastier tricks. Now, I said I would talk about my add-ons a bit. Many people say that the Obsidian Goblet is one of the most useless add-ons in the game, much less on Pyramid Head, whose add-ons are not very good to begin with. It makes you stealthy when you stand on your goop trails, but that's all. It's very limiting unless you are constantly setting up roads or passages for yourself to cross the map, and some maps are simply too large or too complex to make that work. But the reason I use it for this challenge is very specific. Not only does it provide me extra stealth on this tiny map with lots of straightaways like hallways, but it's meant for the end game. When there's one survivor left and I've already closed the hatch, they can either die or try for one of the doors. I showed you the map earlier, so I bet you can see where this is going. Both exit gates are across from each other. All I have to do is draw a line from one end of the courtyard to the other, and then patrol back and forth until the endgame collapse runs out, or the remaining survivor tries for one of the doors and I see them before they can hear my terror radius. Basically, if I get the hatch first, you are not escaping and you are never going to hear me coming. A dirty tactic, but a very effective one that clinched me a lot of 4Ks. The only thing is, survivors in the Silver League are not stupid. This is where the more experienced players with dedicated loadouts, Discord calls, and groups of friends come into play. There were a handful of games where I didn't get a single hook, much less a single kill, and all of the survivors got away alive. Really demoralizing, let me tell you. But with me absolutely crushing the Ash and Silver League, my matchmaking rating was probably much higher than it normally was. Not only was I a Pyramid Head with a few hundred hours to my name, but this entire month so far I'd been crushing 4K after 4K with no end in sight. So, Dead by Daylight started serving me some humble pie. It took me an absolutely staggering 25 games to get through the Silver League. It gobbled up 1/4 of my Mary's letters. Look at this, look at this. It took more Mary's letters to get through the Silver League than the Ash and the Bronze combined. I was struggling hard, and game after game was starting to turn white-knuckled as smarter and smarter survivors started to show up at Midwich Elementary to test me. Remember, I'm using a purely stealth build on a killer with no map pressure and no generator slowdown. Outwitting them was all I was capable of doing, and every survivor from here forward was smart, capable, and had map knowledge equal to my own. I squeaked out somehow, pip by pip, until finally I saw gold for the first time ever playing Dead by Daylight. Everything from here forward was going to be new territory, a higher skill ranking, and serious survivors that I'd never seen the likes of before. The Gold League. The Gold League really made me feel like I'd come over the hump at last. Survivors quickly separated themselves into two groups in front of me. The absolute gamer gods I didn't stand a chance against, and the bog standard screw-ups that had no business being as highly ranked as they were. Games in the Gold League for me were either feast or famine. I kept a chart to see how many survivors I was getting each game, and apart from a couple of rage quitters you could count on one hand, I was either getting a 4K or a 0K, with no in-between. My initial stealth build by then had evolved into something a bit more aggressive now that I was familiar with the map and working with more synergetic perks. Playing for scares and playing to win are two different things after all. I ended up with Lightborn, Unforeseen, Hex Plaything, and Mindbreaker, primarily because more and more survivors were bringing the flashbang perk and no flashlights, and after the 6th game of getting flashbang spammed over and over, Lightborn had become a permanent fixture in my build. Which I know is unfortunate. I really would have loved to have, say, Hysteria or something in there, but the risk just wasn't worth the reward at higher levels of play, so this was my final build. It took 23 games to climb my way through the Gold League, as I said, the feast or famine situations with survivors propelling me much more quickly than I would have ever imagined. I landed at Gold 1, ready to ascend to the final ranks of the game with a startling 30 Mary's letters remaining. 30 games to finish out my challenge out of 100, and now I was in the home stretch. At last, the Iridescent League, the very top of the Dead by Daylight ranked ladder. I'd arrived with 1/3 of my Mary's letters intact, and I was ready to finish my climb to the summit of Iridescent 1. So I did what any man does on a mission. I kissed my wife goodbye, I grabbed a bottled water and some snacks, and I sat my feathered butt down to finish what I started. Thusly began my final assault and the conclusion of my challenge. Much like the Gold League, the Iridescent League was feast or famine when it came to survivors. I was getting 0k after 0k, but also 3 and 4k after 3 and 4k. Much of it depended on what sorts of survivors I was facing. I saw a handful of Twitch streamers, but not as many as I expected, so there really wasn't a whole lot of unfair on-comms teams or anything. I didn't see a single bully squad or flashlight squad, which blew my mind considering how much the DBD community complains about them. Maybe it was just dumb luck that I climbed as high as I did with no problems. Until my luck ran out entirely. I ran out of obsidian goblets and had to start using lesser add-ons. This was a huge hiccup in my plans, as I'd been focusing so hard on getting 100 Mary's letters for the past several months, it never occurred to me to gather up 100 goblets as well. I'd arrived at the very top of the ranked ladder with a huge hole in my strategy, and I adjusted as best I could and swore to soldier on. A handful of games came and went while super survivors and god-level runners made their appearances, but they were few and far between and certainly not present in every game. I could do this. I could make this work. I could, Why am I not getting any more pips? I killed all 4 of them. Why isn't my rank going up? I killed them as hard as I could. I can't kill them any harder than I am right now. What do you want? Yeah, it turns out the higher your rank goes, the better performance you need to give, not just kill people, in order to get any pips at all. That means chasing, hitting, preventing generators from getting done, and killing. You have to do really well in all 4 categories in order to make any progress at all in the Iridescent League. And that, dear viewer, is where my ascent ground to a halt. You see, a stealth build with a killer that has no map pressure or special mobility has to allow for 2, even 3 generators to be finished before the ball even gets rolling. Taking opportunistic strikes to set up for later means that you have to stalk your prey, set up roads for you to be hidden on, duck into side rooms, being a stealthy killer. But that doesn't net you any points in the game's logic. You need to have short chases, keep generators from being done at all, and make quick kills in order to score well. And that is not something I could do with a stealthy Pyramid Head because the build is based on being hidden and being patient. I ran out of time at the end of the month, unable to claw my way any higher at Iridescent 3. So, for the conclusion, I compiled all my stats. With 100 Mary's letters and 1 month to try and use them all, I reached Iridescent 3, the 3rd highest rank in the game. A huge improvement over my regular Silver 1, let me tell you. Turns out playing the game a lot more and seriously playing to win can yield some much higher results than my usual shenanigans. Totaling out everything I kept track of, I came up with my final stats. There were 85 games, 217 deaths, 5 rage quitters, 7 Twitch streamers, 0 flashlight, sabo, and bully squads, and the final rank, like I said, was Iridescent 3. I've been told by a number of sources that Behavior likes for their killers to have a roughly 60 to 65% kill rate to consider them balanced. So it looks like I was pretty much average at the end of the day. Not bad, not bad. Making myself into a stealth killer absolutely hamstringed me once I hit the Iridescent League. But you know what? I got way higher than I usually do playing the game normally. I didn't make it to the top rank, but I had a blast trying for it. Lots of people love Silent Hill, and Pyramid Head is actually a fairly rare killer to see in Dead by Daylight, seeing only a 2 to 3% pick rate of the entire roster, much less to play as a main. I'm a big Silent Hill fan myself, so I was glad to bring the fog of both Silent Hill and Dead by Daylight to other players. Marathoning so many games on the same map with the same perks seriously took its toll on me though, so I probably won't be returning to the game anytime soon. This was an experiment that took over 6 months to prep for getting all those Mary's letters, and a grueling 30 days to execute as a casual Dead by Daylight player. With something to the tune of 260 hours sunk into the game, I'm ready to uninstall and move on to other things. So, I hope you guys had fun with my little Dead by Daylight Silent Hill project. Like I said, this video took like 7 months to make, so if you could hit the like button for me just as a show of solidarity for a longer project, that'd be great. This was a wild experience that I will never do again. The burnout is very real, but man, doing it and being in the thick of it was amazing. So, thanks for watching, everyone. See you later.